Anxiety is something that has become more and more common in our society over the last few years. And I don't know if that is a product of people actually being willing to admit that they struggle with anxiety, or if it's actually the numbers of anxiety are increasing. But I would say, just based off personal experience, based off, educated guess, that we are seeing more anxiety going on in our society. And there are multiple things that can cause this. And today, that's what we're going to dive into: is what is going on with it, what's going on with in the brain, and what can you do to kind of calm some of this down. So really, when we look at anxiety, we're seeing overactivity in certain areas of the brain. And this is not really a surprise, because with the amount of stress that we're under today, with the amount of stress that is constantly on us, whether we're at work and we have 100 people asking us to do something, or we're at home and we've got 10,000 kids activities, or you've got your cell phone or your email constantly buzzing in your pocket. I mean, there's more and more stress now than at any time in history. And I think that plays a big role in this. At the same time, we don't have that escape that we ever had before. There's no way to get away. Like, nobody gets away from their phone for an extended period of time, or not many people anyway, right? We sleep less than we ever did. Our workday is longer than it ever has been. And all of this stuff just combines to where we're running out of the ability to handle some of these things. And when we look at the stress response, what happens is we get an overactive lower brain response. That subcortical area, the limbic system, that emotional brain, starts to fire more. And as it starts to fire more and more, we make more impulsive decisions. We make more of the executive decision, the long-term thinking, the memory, and all the different processes that make us human, the ones that make us make good choices to move ourselves forward, they kind of turn down. We get that excess emotionality and all these other things that go with that. With that, immune function could kick up, and we start getting different cycles. Now, the part that's tasked with that is the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is supposed to feed back to that lower limbic system and turn it down. So it's kind of like the thermostat. When it starts getting a little bit too warm in your house, the thermostat will kick on to cool it down, right? That's essentially what's supposed to happen. However, when we get stressed out, that frontal lobe starts to function a little less efficiently, I guess would be a good way to put it. It's not necessarily less efficient, it just doesn't fire as much. So it's not as good at turning down the temperature to where you want it to go. And that you start running a little hot, you start getting a little anxious, you start getting that emotionality, you start getting that impulsivity, you start getting all of these different things firing off. That leads us down that path, right? So a good way to put this comes from somebody who's not a doctor. Alex Hormozy talks about hopelessness and anxiety. And hopelessness he defines as the inability to have a choice, like you don't know what to do. Anxiety he defines as having a ton of different choices and not knowing which one to choose to move you forward. And I think this is a pretty solid foundation, because, like I said, you get that stress response because it's just there's so much, it's overwhelming, right? So we're trying to figure out what we can do to turn that response down. Now, is that a textbook definition? Absolutely not. But it can give us a little bit of insight into what's actually going to help you, right? We have to know which route is going to give you the best mechanism forward. And I think Benjamin Hardy has great advice on this as well. And he doesn't give it specifically for this, but when you look at Benjamin Hardy, he talks a lot about 10x. And with 10x, he says if you're trying to do whatever goal, you multiply that goal by 10 times. So if you want to lose 5 pounds, how do you lose 50 pounds? If you want to make $5,000, how do you make $50,000, right? He's talking about taking any goal that you have and multiplying it by 10 times. Why does he talk about that? His big thing is when you have a much bigger goal, you have a much clearer path, because there are a lot of things that you can do that are going to help you lose 5 pounds, right? You can change any combination of your diet. You can exercise a little bit. You can start, dehydrating yourself. I mean, there's a million different ways. You could take a laxative and lose 5 pounds. It's not the best way, but it's a possibility, right? When we start looking at the 10x, when we start looking at what would you have to do to lose 50 pounds, you're probably going to have to start eating more healthy. You're going to have to start exercising, and you're going to have to start doing something to control your stress, right? It limits the number of things that you can choose, so it limits your outcomes. To get 10x outcomes, you have to really narrow down what your focus is on a couple of different things that are going to get you there. So when you combine these two, when you have an overwhelm of the number of choices that you have in front of you and you don't know which one to choose, look at what it would take to get 10x where you were. So if you're looking to, get an extra 15 minutes of sleep, what would it take to get an extra 3 hours of sleep? If you're looking to, exercise more, if you're looking to get exercise once a week, what would it take to do it 10 times a week? It's going to be totally different for that, right? And this gives you a little bit of insight into how you can get out of that anxious feeling. Now, does this give you the mechanisms that are going to change this? Yes and no. When you have less stress, you're going to have proper function up here, or more proper function anyway. It's going to take you time to regain that, but you're going to have the ability to get there as you reduce the stress, because health really comes down to how much energy are you able to make, how much energy are you able to save. So how much energy do you have at the end of the day? Just like a bank account. You've got your paycheck coming in, you've got your paycheck going out. How much of that do you have left at the end of the day? Same thing with your health. When you have energy that is being made, you have energy that is being spent, how much is left at the end of the day? What we have to do is either increase your production or decrease your expense. At the end of the day, you got more left over in that way. What this is going to do is guide you down that path that is going to start reducing those expenses. It's going to take you to a less stressful place. You know exactly what to do. You've got it narrowed down. Now, are there going to be times that you want to do something else? You just don't feel like you're doing enough and you're not getting there fast enough and you want to do something? Absolutely. Everybody goes through that. But when you just remind yourself why you're doing it, what your goal is, and that only a few things can get you there, you start getting that ball rolling in that direction. And that takes some stress off of you because you don't have to sit there and constantly ruminate on it. When you're constantly turning that over in your head, you're wasting a ton of energy. So as we start to slow that down, we stop wasting so much energy and we have a little bit left over at the end of the day. When we have that extra energy left over at the end of the day, it can be used to heal. So whether it's healing and turning on that frontal lobe again, whether it is, restoring your muscular abilities or restoring immune system, whatever else, we're reducing that stress to take you down the path that you want to go. Like I said, this is not something that is an overnight path. I'm not saying that you shouldn't use any kind of medications. If it is something that's been prescribed to you, then by all means, continue taking it. But this is a path that can help you move in a positive direction without the extra help. So sit down and look at what you're doing. Why are you having anxiety? What area is causing that? Is it work? Is it home? Is it school? What area is causing you that sensation of anxiety? And when we have a better idea of what you're actually feeling that anxiety in, we have a little bit better idea of where you need to target your focus. And then once we put that focus in the right areas, it's going to help lead you down the right path. So I hope that this is helpful. As always, if you hit that like or subscribe button, it really helps me know exactly what is going to be beneficial to you. So if you hit that, I will share more information like this. If it's not something you want, by all means, give it a thumbs down, skip it, whatever you feel that you need to do. But I'm looking for information on whether or not this is something that's going to help you, because I want to know what I can share to give you the best odds of getting to the ideal health that you're looking for. So I love you, I appreciate you, and I will catch you on your next video.